where your passport doesn't bear the name of a country like the United States, France, or Vietnam. Instead, your citizenship is listed as Google, Amazon, or the name of a sovereign corporation floating on international waters. In this world, there is no income tax. There is no central bank eroding your savings through inflation. There are no gridlocked parliaments or congresses to stifle innovation. And most importantly, no politicians are allowed to enter. Does this sound like the backdrop of a cyberpunk sci-fi movie? Or perhaps a fever dream of a radical libertarian? Here's the uncomfortable truth. It is happening right now. While the rest of the world is distracted by election cycles, inflation data, and culture wars, the wealthiest individuals on the planet are quietly packing their bags. They aren't just moving to a different tax bracket. They are preparing to exit the very concept of the nation-state altogether. We are witnessing the dawn of a new class of human, the sovereign individual. They are buying islands. They are lobbying for autonomous zones with their own police forces. They are designing floating cities. And they are asking a terrifyingly simple question. If a government is just a service provider and the service is bad, why can't we just unsubscribe and build our own? Welcome to the return of feudalism. Only this time, the lords are wearing Silicon Valley hoodies. To understand where we are going, we have to look at a prophecy made over 25 years ago. In 1997, two authors, James Dale Davidson and Lord William Rees-Mogg, published a book titled The Sovereign Individual. At the time, critics dismissed it as fantasy. Today, it is quietly passed around like a religious text among the elites of technology and finance. The book's central thesis is cold and mathematical. It argues that in the industrial age, the nation-state was the ultimate predator because it controlled the things that mattered: land, factories, and physical labor. You couldn't hide a steel mill from the tax collector. You couldn't move a coal mine to another country to avoid regulations. Therefore, the government held all the cards. But we have left the industrial age. We are in the information age. And in this era, true wealth is no longer physical. It is algorithms. It is intellectual property. It is code and cryptocurrency. This wealth is invisible, and it moves at the speed of light. When wealth becomes mobile, the person holding that wealth becomes impossible to control. This is the logic driving the modern movement of charter cities and seasteading. These billionaires view the state not as a sacred homeland, but as a vendor. They see a market for governance. They believe that if Apple can build a better phone than the government can build a post office, then maybe, just maybe, Apple could build a better court system, a better police force, and a better society. But before we dismiss this as modern arrogance, we need to look back. Because history shows us that when merchants become richer than kings, they don't just act like businesses. They start acting like empires. History doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes. And we have heard this rhyme before. Consider the most powerful corporation to ever exist, the British East India Company. In the 18th century, this wasn't just a trading firm, it was a sovereign power. They didn't just have a CEO, they had a governor general. They didn't just have security guards, they had a private army of 260,000 men, twice the size of the British Royal Army at the time. The East India Company minted its own currency. It signed international treaties. It waged wars. It collected taxes from millions of people in India. For a long time, the company operated completely independently of the British government. The shareholders in London didn't care about the welfare of the people in Bengal. They cared about dividends. It was the ultimate example of corporate sovereignty, capitalism untethered from national responsibility. Or let's move closer to the modern day. Let's travel to the Amazon rainforest in 1928. Henry Ford, the richest man of his era, decided that the United States wasn't optimized enough for his vision. He wanted total control over his supply chain and his workers' lives. So he bought a tract of land in Brazil the size of Tennessee and built Fordlandia. It was a private American town in the middle of the jungle. Ford imposed his own laws: prohibition of alcohol, mandatory gardening, American-style food, and rigid industrial work schedules. He tried to export his corporate culture as a form of governance. The result? Total disaster. The workers rioted, the rubber trees died from disease, and nature reclaimed the city. Fordlandia stands today as a haunting ruin, a monument to the hubris of thinking a CEO can play God. But for every Fordlandia that fails, there's a Hanseatic League that succeeds, a network of free merchant cities in medieval Europe that operated outside the feudal system of kings, creating their own laws and vast wealth. The question is, are today's tech billionaires building the next Hanseatic League or the next Fordlandia? When we analyze these historical events alongside current trends, a clear pattern emerges. We can call it the exit pattern. It is the roadmap that the ultra-wealthy use to decouple themselves from society. It happens in 4 distinct stages. Stage 1 is hyper-accumulation. This is where we are now. Individual or corporate wealth surpasses the GDP of small to medium-sized nations. When a single person has enough liquidity to bail out a banking system or fund a space program, the power dynamic shifts. They stop needing the state for protection. the state begins needing them for solvency. Stage 2 is institutional friction. The elite begin to feel that the old operating system, democracy, bureaucracy, regulations, is incompatible with their speed of innovation. They want to test experimental drugs without the FDA. They want to launch rockets without the FAA. They want to issue currency without the SEC. They start to view the law not as a safety net, but as a shackle. This leads to stage 3, the choice between voice and exit. Economist Albert Hirschman famously theorized that when a system fails, you have two options. Use your voice to try to fix it, politics, voting, protest, or use exit to leave it. The average citizen is forced to use voice because they have nowhere else to go. But the sovereign individual, possessing mobile capital, realizes that voice is inefficient. Politics is messy and slow, so they choose exit. Finally, stage 4 is refounding. This is the critical step. They don't just run away. They build a new container for their power. They acquire land, negotiate sovereignty, and write a new user agreement that replaces the Constitution. This is not theoretical. The exit has already begun. Look at Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal and Palantir. He has spent years funding the Seasteading Institute. His philosophy is explicit. The nature of government is monopoly, and monopolies are stagnant. He wants to see modular, floating cities on international waters, where new systems of governance can be A/B tested like software. If a city's tax code works, it floats. If it fails, it sinks, literally and economically. Or look at Prospera on the island of Roatan in Honduras. This is a real functioning ZE, a zone for employment and economic development. It is a semi-autonomous city-state run by a private company. In Prospera, Bitcoin is legal tender. The income taxes are flat and low. They have their own arbitration center that bypasses the Honduran judicial system. They are selling governance as a premium product. And it's not just happening abroad. In California, a group of billionaires, including investors linked to LinkedIn and Andreessen Horowitz, spent nearly $1 billion quietly buying up 50,000 acres of farmland in Solano County. Their goal? To bypass the gridlock of San Francisco and build a utopia called California Forever from scratch. Then there's the most radical concept of all, the network state, popularized by investor Balaji Srinivasan. The idea is to form a country digitally first. You gather a community of millions of people online who share the same values, you crowdfund billions of dollars, and then, only then, do you buy patches of land all over the world. A decentralized archipelago of territory, connected not by borders, but by the internet and the blockchain. And of course, there is the ultimate exit strategy. Elon Musk and Mars. A new planet where, as Musk has hinted, Earth's laws may not apply. So, what happens if they succeed? What is the forecast for the rest of us? If the sovereign individuals successfully exit, we risk entering an era of techno-feudalism. Imagine a world fragmented into two distinct realities. On one side, you have the citadels, high-tech, privately owned city-states. They will be clean, safe, and efficient. They will have life extension clinics, drone delivery networks, and private security that actually works. But they will be gated. Admission will be based on your net worth or your utility to the corporation. You won't be a citizen with rights. You will be a user subject to the terms of service. And as we all know, nobody reads the terms of service until it's too late. On the other side, you have the legacy states. These are the countries left behind. As the wealthy take their tax revenue and intellectual capital away, these traditional nations could face a death spiral. Crumbling infrastructure, underfunded pensions, hyperinflation, and social unrest. The danger isn't necessarily that the billionaires are building something new. The danger is abandonment. The social contract, the invisible agreement that binds the rich and the poor to a shared fate, is breaking. If the most capable members of our species feel no loyalty to the land of their birth, if they view their fellow citizens as dead weight, then who is left to solve the problems of the world we actually live in? We are moving from a world of we the people to a world of us the shareholders. We are standing on the precipice of the biggest shift in geopolitical power since the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648, which created the modern country. Maybe these charter cities will fail, collapsing under the weight of their own ego, like Fordlandia. Or maybe they are the inevitable future of a digital species. But I want to leave you with a question to ponder tonight. If tomorrow a major tech giant announced they had bought an island, declared sovereignty, and offered you a passport, offering zero taxes, perfect safety, and total freedom, but you had to give up your right to vote and sign a lifetime contract, would you get on the boat? Or would you stay and fight for the country you know? This is a debate that will define our century. Let us know your choice in the comments below. We read every single one.